Good morning. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York State.
Chairman Cohen,
Yes.
I just need to take a roll call.
You want to do your roll call first?
Yes, thank you.
Go for it.
Okay. Okay, good morning. This is Debbie Royce, Empire State Development's Corporate Secretary. I'd like to welcome everyone to this morning's meeting. Before we formally begin, I would ask that everyone please mute your lines unless you're speaking. We'll begin today by taking a roll call of the directors to ensure that we have a quorum present on the line. Please be so kind as to say present when we call your name. Steve Cohen.
Present.
Howard Zemsky.
Present.
Hilda Rosario Escher.
Present.
Eric Gertler.
Present.
Cesar Perales.
Present.
And Superintendent of DFS, Linda Lacewell.
Present.
Thank you so much. Chairman Cohen, you are ready to begin.
Okay, I now really call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York State Urban Development Corporation doing business as Empire State Development for Thursday, September 17th, 2020. Before we get started, I will ask that everyone please mute their phones until we are ready to speak. Also, for the record, I will ask that anyone wishing to speak, please be sure to state your name before you begin. I'd like to note for the record that due to public health concerns and as authorized by an executive order of the governor, this meeting will be conducted by teleconference. I will also note for the record that the public was given the opportunity to comment on the agenda items by submitting their written comments by 4:30 p.m. yesterday. I'd like to state for the record that no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda items. As always, the directors have received the written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time during the presentations. At this time, I will ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the items on the agenda. If so, I will ask you to please make an appropriate disclosure on the record, and we will then remind you to recuse yourself from any discussions or vote with regard to such item or items. And to begin with, I would like to disclose that as a board member of New York University, I will be recusing myself from today's New York University Virtual Reality Capital Project agenda items, discussion, consideration, and vote. Are there any other members of the board that would like to note potential conflicts and recusals?
Yes, thank you. It's Linda Lacewell. As I teach at NYU, I will similarly recuse. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And let's be clear, what a fine course it is.
This is Eric Gertler. As I did the last time with respect to the delegation of authority on grant disbursements in an amount not to exceed $1 million for PPE retooling for manufacturers across the state, I will recuse myself again, as the delegation of authority is for the president and CEO to enter into contract. So I intend to recuse myself from that vote.
Any others?
Can you hear me? I was in mute.
Now we can hear you.
All right. There are two items that involve the State University of New York. I serve as vice chair of that board. As I recall, I don't have it in front of me, but one of those items affects our campus in Binghamton, and I think it's the creation of a culinary center in Binghamton. And the other is that we will redelegate, again, the authority to Eric Gertler to expend as much as $1 million on behalf of SUNY's COVID effort.
All right, then. Any others? I assume not. Thank you. With the foregoing conflicts noted for the record, the first item on today's agenda is the approval of the minutes of the August 20th, 2020 directors meeting. Any objections, comments, edits to those? No response. I will take that as there are none, and I will entertain a motion.
Move. This is Hilda.
I will second it.
Terrific. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you. The motion carries. I will now ask Peter Heilburn to present any item relating to the corporation's annual investment report and investment guidelines. You ready to begin?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Each year, this item is presented to the board as the Public Authorities Law requires annual approval of the ESD's investment report and investment guidelines. The report details, among other things, the portfolio as of fiscal year end, results of the annual audit, and the investment performance for the fiscal year. The total investment earnings for fiscal year 2019-2020 were $36.7 million, a decrease of 2.7% from last year. The difference is primarily due to lower interest rates, particularly in the last few months of the fiscal year. These earnings were generated from corporate funds, revenue bond funds, and project and program funds. Of the total investment transactions executed, 30% were placed with MWBE firms. The portfolio reflects our focus on, in order of priority, number 1, preservation of capital, number 2, providing liquidity for funding obligations, and number 3, return on investment. For the fiscal year, average investments were $1.7 billion, with an average maturity of 78 days and an average yield of 1.98%. As a benchmark, during the same period, the average yield for 3-month U.S. agency discount notes was 1.77%, and for 3-month Treasury bills was 1.78%. The full report contains detailed information. Thank you.
I'm sorry, now I was on mute. Any questions or comments from any of the directors? And I'll note there were no public comments on this item, but anything from the board? Hearing none, I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved. It's Howard.
Thank you, Howard. A second?
Linda, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We now turn to Jeff Januszewski, who will present an item related to an extension of the delegation of authority to enter into contracts for COVID-19 pandemic relief assistance. And I'll note, if I am correct, that this is the item from which Eric Gertler has already recused himself.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
And Cesar Perales has recused himself as
Yes.
a member of the board of ESD.
Jeff?
Chairman Cohen, members of the board, good morning. Just so you are familiar with why I'm presenting, I'm Senior Vice President of our Strategic Business and Global New York divisions, and have been leading the initiative to retool and make COVID products, which has relied the most on the authority we're about to discuss. At your meeting on March 26th, the directors delegated to the President and Chief Executive Officer the authority to enter into contracts for COVID-19 pandemic relief assistance not to exceed $1 million. The delegation of authority was to last for a period of 6 months and is set to expire on September 26th. To continue to enable the immediate response to this crisis, it is proposed that the directors extend the delegation to the President and Chief Executive Officer, or if he so designates, the Chief Operating Officer of the authority to enter into contracts for COVID-19 pandemic relief assistance, including grant disbursement agreements and loan documents, not to exceed $1 million for an additional 6 months. And I'm happy to take any questions.
If you could just explain, Jeff, or maybe, Eric, by way of background, not asking him to opine on any of this, if you could just give a few examples of how this has played out and why the notion of being able to respond quickly and not seek board authorization is critical for these items.
Eric, would you like me to proceed?
Yeah, why don't you proceed and I'll add to it.
Okay. Well, back in March, the governor put forth an urgent call for manufacturers to either retool or scale up to improve the amount of critical medical supplies that we produce in New York State as we began to respond to the pandemic. And this was an urgent call that we moved very quickly, and we did. And so we were able to, in a matter of a few weeks, make agreements with companies to do such retooling and have disbursements into those companies within a couple of weeks after that. And so the process began in earnest in March. Had we been going through our normal process, it probably would have been months to the point where we could have made a disbursement to any of those companies. And so the conversion to making such products would not have occurred or have started to occur for some months, and we'd probably only be seeing the first products now.
Yeah. And I would just, I'm sorry, I would just add, and I think Board Member Superintendent Lacewell understands, as she was, directing many of our efforts to identify and source materials around the world, which became, a very difficult process as states were competing. And so, the governor wanted ESD to start to figure out how to retool manufacturers, of which there was essentially zero PPE being manufactured in New York State 6 or 7 months ago. We're pleased that the governor's been able to make 2 announcements since then, both in mid-May and the end of July, for 20 companies, totaling almost $11 million. Those companies, we were able to make such quick announcements because we were able to move quickly and able to start to solve some of the PPE issues that we've had in the state. And I think that that mandate has been instrumental to allow Jeff and his team to get in the market and start to talk to manufacturers, and not just in terms of working with companies to retool, but also working with consultants to help these manufacturers get through the certification process that's required for many of the hospitals. So, fast forward, we've made a lot of progress, and we're thankful to the board for that authority to allow us to move forward and put New York in a much stronger position, and New York State manufacturers to support the governor's efforts here.
And I might add that
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's Howard. I just want to echo some of Eric's comments, having contributed some amount of time talking to potential suppliers as well. These companies were being contacted by others from out of state and around the world, and our ability to respond quickly had a significant impact on our ability to procure the PPE. So I just want to thank Eric and Jeff and the team, because you went from nothing to a lot of success in a short time. So I think the ability to respond to these companies quickly was and will continue to be a critical part of what we bring to the table.
So let me pipe in here, because I not only want to echo what Howard just said, and it really was an extraordinary job, but to point out to the board that this is an ongoing process. It started as a crisis where it was about immediate supply and needs. Then it became about building a stockpile. And my own reaction was, well, once we're close to satisfying that stockpile, hasn't the urgency ended? And the answer is no. And the reason, which Howard alluded to, has to do with the governor's directive to try to achieve self-sufficiency, which is, and happy to talk about it, off this call, because it would consume the whole morning. But the ability to achieve self-sufficiency for the state and those in the state, not just the state actors, but the hospital systems, becomes very tricky because of the nature of pricing, starting up those businesses in New York State. How do you attract those businesses? To what extent do you pay above market to ensure that there is product in the U.S.? Does it trip over, frankly, constitutional issues? And so the group here has been working doggedly on this issue, all with an eye towards figuring out how to get close to self-sufficiency in certain items that are just hard to manufacture in New York. And frankly, if any of the board members have some insight, some thoughts, some contacts that would be helpful, especially with the idea of attracting manufacturers of gloves and gowns, which are the two most difficult to manufacture in the U.S. and in New York, that would be great. But that is the gist of it. And with my long rambling statement, I'll now turn to whether or not we have a motion for approval of this item.
So moved. It's Howard.
Second.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, to interrupt. I just want to make sure, and I'm sorry if I missed this, that obviously the board gets some kind of periodic briefing on what contracts of that size have been entered into, just so we maintain our role. Thank you.
Yeah, Liz, if you're on, I assume you are, can you speak to what the notification is to the board? Because Linda's exactly right, which is why she teaches a class at a law school.
Sorry, I was on mute also. This is Liz Fine. Yes, the resolution that is being proposed would require, unlike the original proposal, which just was done in an emergency context, we've now updated it so that we will provide the board from time to time, as timely as possible, the information about any grants or contracts approved using this delegation of authority.
Thank you, Liz.
A motion?
So moved. It's Howard.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any in opposition? In that case, the motion carries, and we will now move to the report section of today's agenda, and I will ask Eric Gertler to start things off with his president's report.
Well, thank you, Steve, and I guess also thank you for heading your second board meeting. We appreciate your dedication and commitment and everything that the guidance that you've already provided at ESD. So thank you, and good morning, everybody. And again, I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy. I thought today I would keep my report somewhat short. It's our first board meeting after the summer, and I hope everybody had a good summer. Although, given the year that we've had, it never really felt like summer. And yet now we are very much focused as an agency and as a government on recovery and reopening. And so the season seemed to change without much notice. Let me give you on a macro level. Over the last few weeks, and I think many of you have seen the press releases, the number of positive coronavirus tests conducted in New York State has continued to be 1% or less, which is a truly remarkable string that we've had over the last many weeks. Several states have now been removed from New York's travel advisory, meaning residents or visitors from those states are no longer subject to our 14-day quarantine. In New York City, indoor dining will return later this month with certain guidelines and a 25% capacity requirement, at least starting at the end of the month. And yet, with all of this, as progress continues to be made, we cannot let our guard down. There's still much work to be done, as we just discussed in respect to the last vote that we had. Sorry about that, corporate action. So let me just talk a little bit about some of the positive announcements since our last meeting. Throughout the state, we've had a number of developments. In Buffalo, on its east side, more than $1 million was awarded to local commercial property owners to help enhance 4 targeted commercial districts. This initiative is part of the Governor's East Side Corridor Economic Development Fund. We also announced this week that Li-Cycle, a North American-based lithium-ion battery resource recovery company, will further grow its operations in New York State. with the company planning to invest over $175 million in a lithium-ion battery recycling hub in Monroe County. This is in addition to its first U.S. spoke operation already located at the Eastman Business Park. The company is committed to creating at least 100 new jobs at the hub, in addition to the 23 who will be working at the spoke facility. ESD played a role in assisting Li-Cycle with up to $5 million through the Excelsior Jobs Tax Credit Program once the business starts to meet its employment commitments. Also in Monroe County, packaging manufacturer ProAmpec broke ground on a 25,000 square foot state-of-the-art innovation center extension at its existing facility in the town of Ogden. ProAmpec has considered conducting the innovation center out of state, but chose to add it to the current location thanks to the support from New York State. ESD is assisting ProAmpec's innovative project with up to $1.3 million through a capital grant and through the Excelsior Jobs program. The company has committed to hiring up to 40 new employees as a result of the expansion. Two of our competitions, Illuminate New York, which is the world's largest business accelerator for startup firms that have optics, photonics, and imaging-enabled technologies, and Grow New York, our URI-funded food, innovation, and agricultural technology business challenge within the Southern Tier, Finger Lakes, and Central New York announced winners and finalists respectively. The amount of interest from entrepreneurs and energy within these industries is a positive sign for New York's economy and provides momentum for our strategy of developing these cutting-edge fields here in New York. And then lastly, in Rochester, the Sibley Square project took a leap forward with the opening of Liberty Lofts, which was developed by HCR. ESD has been heavily involved in the revitalization of this historic Sibley building, which is part of our continuing efforts to revitalize downtown Rochester. You know, it's of course hard to talk about Rochester without regrettably taking note of, you know, some of the challenges and issues there, as well as the tragic events that have occurred there. And I just want to say that we hope and pray for, you know, justice and healing in that city as we do across the country. The governor also announced $2.3 million in Federal CARES Act funding to ESD partners to, you know, as part of our MEP program, to provide critical services to small and mid-sized manufacturers as they adapt to changing market conditions among the COVID-19 pandemic. And these awards are being managed by our NYSTAR division. And then lastly, just at ESD itself, I spoke about this at our last meeting, but ESD employees are returning to offices around the state pursuant to state-issued guidelines for business resumption. The employee return schedules vary by region and now involve a combination of in-office and remote work to ensure that social distancing is maintained. You know, I can say that regardless of location and all of the compliance requirements, you know, the ESD staff have shown extraordinary dedication to our agency's mission and our daily work, and I continue to be in awe of their extraordinary capabilities. So I thank everyone at the agency for their continued hard work and dedication and commitment. As well, I thank our fellow board members as we collectively continue to reopen and rebuild our state's economy in the days and months ahead. Report over. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you very much. With that, we'll proceed with our other project items, and I will ask Glenda McLary to present a summary of those projects. Glenn?
Thank you, and good morning.
Good morning.
The directors will be requested to consider 10 projects totaling $37,117,200 in grants. The projects include 13 regional council awards and 2 discretionary awards. The projects will take place in the Western New York, Mohawk Valley, Mid-Hudson, Southern Tier, Central New York City, and Long Island regions, leverage over $483 million of additional investment, retain 135 jobs, and create 891 jobs in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the project section of today's agenda. Regional directors and program staff are on the line with us today to present their items and to answer any project-related questions. Amanda Mays will start things off with two projects from our Western New York region. Amanda, whenever you're ready, please begin.
Good morning. The directors are requested to approve a grant of $273,000 from the Regional Council Capital Fund, CFA Round 8, to the Niagara Aquarium Foundation, doing business as the Aquarium of Niagara, for a portion of costs associated with a $1.9 million project to create an interactive touch pool exhibit. The 2018 Regional Council Priority Project constructed a new 4,000 square foot exhibit that will allow visitors to have a more interactive experience with sharks, stingrays, and a variety of other marine invertebrates housed in the museum. The installation of this exhibit marks the completion of the first phase of the aquarium's master plan, which included infrastructure improvements, new exhibits, and enhanced guest experiences. The Western New York Regional Council has supported two earlier projects in Phase 1, which included the construction and renovation of the Humboldt Penguin exhibit and construction of a new jellyfish exhibit. As a result of these investments and expansion of the exhibit offerings at the aquarium, it has seen an increase in visitation to over 270,000 people in 2019. It is the only provider of interactive educational programs and experiences with marine life and aquatic ecosystems in the Western New York region, and has become one of the premier attractions in the Niagara region, increasing overnight stays and visitor spending. The second project from Western New York, the directors are asked to approve a grant of $377,000 from the Regional Council Capital Fund with CFA Round 7 to Sheet Metal Workers Local 71 for a portion of costs associated with the nearly $1.3 million project rehabbing an existing deteriorating facility into a training center for union members. ESD funding contributed toward the construction and renovation of a vacant and blighted former manufacturing facility on the City of Buffalo's east side. The 7,200 square foot two-story building adjacent to Smart 71's headquarters was combined with its neighboring structure to create an expanded, updated training facility for union members who include sheet metal workers, service technicians, bus operators, engineers, conductors, sign workers, welders, production employees, and more. The finished facility now has sheet metal working modules for hands-on experience and allows for a real construction site experience. The new facility will allow for continuing education classes for the union's 650 members and anticipates 200 trainees using the facility in the next year. The facility will also help attract students into Smart Local 71's apprenticeship program, which currently brings in 10 to 15 new apprentices each year and has 62 existing apprentices. This renovation was critically important to all of their journeymen and apprenticeships to learn the newest methods and tools in their trade. Without this additional level of assurance offered by ESD, the project would have stalled due to lack of guaranteed capital.
All right. Are there any questions or comments from any of the directors with regard to these items? Hearing none, and noting that there were no public comments, I will now entertain a motion for approval of both.
So moved. It's Howard.
Second?
Second, it's Eric.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? In which case, the motion carries, and we will now turn to Mike Reese, who will present an item from our Mohawk Valley region. Mike?
Good morning, Board of Directors. This morning I'm going to be asking the Board of Directors to consider the approval of a grant of up to $480,000 from Round 7 of the Regional Council Capital Fund to the Little Falls Hospital to be used for a portion of the cost of constructing a new 7,500 square foot primary care facility in the village of Dolgeville, Herkimer County. This capital grant was accepted in April of 2018. Little Falls Hospital is a not-for-profit critical access hospital affiliated with Bassett Healthcare in Cooperstown, New York. Hospital provides 25 acute, swing, and special care beds along with 24/7 emergency services. Little Falls Hospital has developed and constructed a primary care service center in the village of Dolgeville to replace an aging, outdated facility not originally designed to serve a medical function. The new facility will provide home and on-site access to patients seeking various services such as same-day surgeries, non-emergent medical treatment, and acute medical care. This will establish a continuity of care and greater access to medical treatment and follow-up care. It will also bridge the need in the community for primary care in the region as opposed to inappropriate emergency room utilization. The total budget for the project is $2,700,000. The project was completed in February of 2020, and it is consistent with the Mohawk Valley Regional Economic Development Council's plan of responding to unmet healthcare needs in communities within the Mohawk Valley region. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any comments, questions? Hearing none, I will now entertain a motion for approval.
Motion, it's Eric.
Second?
Second, Linda.
There is a mute second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries, which takes us to the Mid-Hudson region and James Kostenblatt. Are you ready, James?
I'm ready, thank you. Good morning, everyone. The directors are requested to approve 6 grants totaling up to $25.1 million for Merlin Entertainment's Legoland New York theme park in the town of Goshen in Orange County. Merlin Entertainment is investing $420 million to establish the 150-acre Legoland New York theme park set on over 500 acres of land, which is Merlin Entertainment's largest investment in a single park in the history of the company. The company has committed to creating 573 new jobs, of which 285 are permanent FTEs and 288 are seasonal FTEs. The project also includes a construction of a new exit ramp and upgrades to local roads. Legoland New York was scheduled to open the park in July 2020, and you may all know that because the governor mentioned this in his State of the State earlier this year. But this has been delayed until 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That said, construction is progressing in spite of a shutdown during New York on pause, and the company has met the criteria for their first disbursement. They are also projected to exceed their MWBE goal by 10%. So some background on the company. Merlin Entertainment is the largest European entertainment company operating in Europe and is the second largest operator of visitor attractions worldwide after none other than Disney. Merlin runs over 130 attractions in 25 countries across 4 continents, including 8 Legoland parks. The New York park will be an experience for families with children 2 to 12 and all Lego fans. The company now has a fully executed labor peace agreement with the Hotel Trades Council. I'd also like to highlight a few additional benefits of this project to the region and the state. Legoland New York will be hosting 2 community days every year for the town of Goshen, where 50% of ticket revenues go right to the town. The company will pay a host fee of at least $500,000 every year to the town of Goshen. Legoland New York is donating 2 wells to the town for an underserved residential area, as well as $30,000 in connection costs. And Legoland New York has partnered with local not-for-profit organizations that support people with disabilities, and they're committed to hiring individuals from these organizations, as we all know, a population that typically faces higher barriers of entry into the workforce. Legoland New York is a keystone project for the Mid-Hudson intended to drive tourism growth here, and was identified as a priority project for the Mid-Hudson Regional Economic Development Council as it aligns with the council's play strategy, strengthening the region's identity as a premier tourist destination and enhancing residents' quality of life. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this.
Any questions, comments? Hearing none, I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, it's Howard.
Second?
Second, it's Eric.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries. And we turn to Donna Howell regarding Southern Tier projects.
Good morning, directors. We're requesting approval for a grant of up to $5,497,200 to renovate a former library into a state-of-the-art culinary and event center right in downtown Binghamton. And this is for SUNY Broom's new School of Culinary Arts. So this was a Carnegie Library that originally opened in 1904, and it served as the Broome County Public Library for 96 years. This project will bring a new generation of students and events into downtown while expanding SUNY Broom's educational offerings with the new program. This is a round 4 project that is consistent with the Southern Tier REDC's strategic plan to build the Greater Binghamton Innovation Ecosystem by investing in critical urban infrastructure and innovations in the culinary and hospitality industries. And it's also consistent with ESG's strategy of workforce development and placemaking, and it was complete this past February in 2020. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? And I'd also like to remind everyone that Cesar Perales has recused himself from consideration of this item, if I remember correctly. And at this point, I will entertain a motion for approval.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? The motion carries, and that takes us to Jim Fail, who will now present an item from the Central New York region. Jim, you got it.
Thank you. Good morning. Today I'll be asking the board to approve a $940,000 grant on a $5.5 million project to Martin's Fresh Holding, Inc. There is an additional $240,000 in Excelsior tax credits as well. Martin's is a family-owned business that was established in 1914. Currently, they package frozen and fresh-cut produce. The project involves the expansion and equipment of their current facility, as well as purchase a 100,000 square foot refrigerated warehouse. The project will retain 100 jobs and create an additional 100 jobs, of which 20 jobs have already been created. This is consistent with the Central New York plan to focus on agriculture. This project was completed in December of 2018 and was a round 7 priority project. And I'll be glad to entertain any questions.
Any questions? I will then entertain a motion.
So moved. It's Howard.
We have a second?
I'll second. It's Eric.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is approved. We now turn to 3 projects from the New York City region. Joe Tazewell will handle those. Are you prepared, Joe?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The directors are requested to approve a $1.2 million grant to the Bronx River Media Group, LLC, in connection with the development of a new motion picture television production facility in the Soundview section of the Bronx. This Regional Council Round 6 project supports the state's priority of downtown revitalization and its efforts to grow the film and TV production industry. Bronx River Media, LLC is the real estate holding entity of York Studios, Inc. York Studios was established in 2009 with the opening of a 40,000 square foot motion picture and television production facility in Maspeth, Queens. That facility has hosted a number of prominent feature films, including The Amazing Spider-Man 2, In Stop, This Is Where I Leave You, and John Wick. York Studios has broadened its footprint with a newly completed 171,000 square foot facility in the Bronx, which York has dubbed its Michelangelo campus. The facility, which is now complete, has a cost of $50.6 million and consists of 5 studios ranging from 15,000 to 18,000 square feet, shop space, as well as support office space. The project site is located along the Bronx River on 9.2 acres. The project will result in 28 new jobs and 460 production jobs. New York State is not only investing in infrastructure such as sound stages, but it is also investing in the development of new talent with initiatives such as the Film Production Training Program, a partnership between CUNY's Bronx Community College and IATSE Local 52, which trains participants to work in the union trade craft. In addition, last month, the board approved the Entertainment Diversity Job Training Grant Program Guidelines, which are expected to launch shortly. York Studios is aware of these initiatives and has individuals graduate from the training program, we will connect these graduates with the productions which are occupying the stages at York as well as other studios nearby. The second project is the directors are requested to approve a $2.25 million grant to Nanotronics Imaging in connection with the establishment of a new manufacturing facility in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. The New York City Regional Council designated this project as a priority in Round 8 in support of the Life Science Cluster and its regional priorities. Nanotronics, founded in 2009, is a global developer of advanced automated industrial microscopes, factory control tools, and other devices powered by artificial intelligence, or AI. The company works with leading-edge companies from aerospace to electronics to healthcare to detect flaws and anomalies in manufacturing. Through its new subsidiary, Nanotronics Health, the company recently conceived, built, and received emergency use authorization from the FDA within just 90 days for a non-invasive ventilator called Inhale to assist those patients suffering from COVID-19 disease, but in non-life-threatening situations. The ventilator is used in hospitals and other healthcare facilities, such as emergency care spaces, prison infirmaries, and nursing care facilities. The project is on track for FDA approval for this device. Nanotronics will lease and build out 25,000 square feet of space in a 150-year-old former shipbuilding factory in the Brooklyn Navy Yard in order to expand its manufacturing. The project has a cost of $11.3 million. In addition, Nanotronics has partnered with CUNY's Medgar Evers College to join the Startup New York program and will collaborate to develop the next generation of leaders in New York's expanding technology and manufacturing ecosystem. This project will result in 34 retained jobs and 190 new jobs. The company has already created 34 new jobs. The project will be complete by the end of November. Finally, the directors are requested to approve a $700,000 grant to New York University in connection with the construction of a state-of-the-art augmented reality and virtual reality lab, referred to as our lab. This is also in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. The New York City Regional Council designated this project as a priority in Round 8 in support of workforce development. NYU is investing $4.6 million in the R Lab, which includes the creation of a 400 square foot black box theater at its building 22 in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. The on-site motion studio will provide a venue for new startup companies, academic researchers, new ventures, educators, and students to better understand and develop AR, VR technology and its application. The R Lab is part of New York City's larger plan launched in 2017 to generate 30,000 well-paying technology jobs in the city. These applications have the potential to impact a wide range of industries that are crucial to New York's economy, such as healthcare, entertainment, and media. The augmented reality and virtual reality market is estimated to generate revenue of $22 billion in 2020, and is also expected to reach $161 billion by 2025. I'm happy to answer any questions on these three projects.
Any questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, Linda Lacewell, just on the Nanotronics one, I just wanted to express how good it is to see economic development harnessed with improving the public health, and I think the more we can do that, the more we're going to succeed at building back better. So kudos on that one.
Any others? Any other comments? And I will remind everybody, and for those who are keeping score, that both Superintendent Lacewell and I are recused from the NYU virtual reality item. So to the extent we are taking a vote voice, our votes reflect 1 and 2, or in your agenda, G and H, but not I. All in favor of these three items, if I can get a motion.
So moved. It's Howard.
Have a second?
Second, it's Eric.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposition? The motion carries, which turns us to Long Island's best, Carol Longworth.
Hi, good morning, and thank you. This morning, we're asking the board to approve a $300,000 Regional Council capital grant to Georgica Green Ventures to assist in the cost of the infrastructure necessary to support a mixed-use affordable housing development in downtown Riverhead. Georgica Green Ventures is a private developer of affordable housing on Long Island. The total project cost for this infrastructure was just under $2.3 million. And this was a Regional Council Round 7 priority project for Long Island Regional Economic Development Council, as it supported the strategies of creating vibrant downtowns, creating diverse housing stock with rental properties, as well as creating affordable housing. The infrastructure work performed with this grant included replacing and encasing sewer lines, extending the water main, and installing and updating electrical infrastructure, as well as installing 2 fire hydrants. The work was necessary to complete the mixed-use development, but it will also enhance the quality of life for the residents and the businesses in the downtown Riverhead district by giving them access to updated infrastructure that will move more efficiently. The completed project that is supported by this infrastructure has 116 income-restricted apartments with nearly 13,000 square feet of retail. The apartments are 31 studios, 57 one-bedrooms, and 28 two-bedrooms with income limits from 60% to 130% of the area median income. It's anticipated the occupancy will be completed in late September. They just had a lottery this week and received about over 200 applications for the 116 units. And a brewery has signed a lease for one of the ground floor retail spaces. This project is complete and is ready for disbursement. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none, I will call for a motion.
So moved, it's Howard.
Do we have a second?
Second, Linda.
Terrific. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposition. The motion carries. Next, we have on the non-discretionary consent calendar, we have the non-discretionary consent calendar, which will be presented by Simone Bethune. Simone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to everyone. We are seeking director's approval for one non-discretionary grant. Non-discretionary grants refer to those commitments listed in the New York State budget that enhance the state's communities through cultural, educational, research, and development, and civic organizations. These projects originate from the Governor, Assembly, or Senate, and ESD is named to administer the funding. ESD does not select the recipients of funding. This is a $670,000 Assembly-sponsored local assistance grant to the Research Foundation of SUNY Stony Brook Cancer Center to support salaries of faculty and staff working to advance the clinical and basic research, community outreach, and educational mission of the Stony Brook Cancer Center. The center's mission is to reduce suffering from cancer by providing world-class multidisciplinary care close to home, conducting innovative research, educating patients and healthcare professionals, and partnering with its community to reach underserved populations. The center operates under the guidelines of the National Cancer Institute and must meet ever-evolving standards and requirements to maintain status as a National Cancer Institute designated facility. Today's grant will continue this effort and maintenance. The funding was applied through June 2020. And I can take any questions.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
This is Director Perales. I failed to indicate that this is also a SUNY project, and I wish to recuse myself.
Thank you. A great catch and greatly appreciated. So let's note for the record that Director Perales has recused himself from this particular item. And with that in mind, I will ask for a motion.
So moved, it's Howard.
A second?
Second, it's Eric.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? The motion carries. And now we'll turn things over to Kevin Eunice on a summary of administrative actions on today's agenda. I believe there are 4 items. Kevin, you are batting cleanup. It is all yours.
All right. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Directors. As Chairman said, I'll be presenting 4 items for your consideration today. The first is a request to enter into a contract related to the marketing order program with Cornell University. As a reminder, the order program was established to promote the consumption and research of New York State agricultural products. Producers of certain agricultural products pay a fee, and those funds are used for marketing and researching of products and dairy products. The program is managed in partnership with the New York State Department of Ag and Markets, and the contract for your consideration today is with Cornell University for $399,000. The second item is a request to enter into a contract for renewal for Dun & Bradstreet's Market Insight Analytics platform. This platform provides ESD with functions supporting market analysis, business planning, and economic development, and provides global access to all active business entities. We are seeking to renew this contract for an additional year for a total contract amount of $398,000. The cost and usage of this service will be split with the New York State Department of Labor, with ESD paying half and DOL paying half at $199,000 each. The third is a request to amend a contract with Nixon Peabody to continue to provide legal services for New York Ventures, which manages New York's venture capital funds. Nixon has provided this service since 2008 when it was selected following a solicitation. We're asking for the authority to amend the contract to increase the price by $200,000. And the final item is a request to amend the contract with the law firm of Holland & Knight, LLP, to increase the contract limit by $250,000 to a not-to-exceed amount of $1.2 million. The firm would continue to provide legal services related to the Moynihan Station and land use improvement project, including related to the construction, operation, maintenance, insurance, and public-private partnerships. I will entertain any questions. Thank you.
Any questions?
Are these matters for a vote, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to recuse on the Moynihan matter just because I'm a board member on the MTA. Thank you.
Any others? So for the record, with respect to item 4, which is 4D on the agenda, Director Superintendent Lacewell has recused, so her voice vote will be for the first 3, but not the 4th. Is there a motion?
So moved, Ms. Howard.
Second?
Eric.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries. And I think that concludes the business of the board for today, unless I am told otherwise by Ms. Royce.
No, you are correct, sir. We are ready to adjourn.
So as Eric pointed out, this is the conclusion of my second board meeting, and I just wanted to thank everybody, but also say, I plan on calling in the next week or so all the board members just to get any input, thoughts, comments they may have. We are, working in and will continue to work in what is an unusual situation, given that we are operating by teleconference rather than in person. So typically, I would have a chance to really get to know everybody and get some feedback, and we'd be spending a lot more time with Howard getting his insights. But given that I don't think this world is going to change anytime too quickly, I thought I would just pick up the phone and call around to get some input. So if you see that I am calling, that's why, and I appreciate it if you'll actually take or return the call. And with that, I believe we are ready to adjourn. So anything further we need, Debbie?
No, just call for your motion and then you're done.
Motion to adjourn. Anybody want to move?
So moved, Howard. Yep.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. I look forward to speaking to you all very soon. And thank you all for your participation and your patience.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks, everyone.